Hello. On the Getting Started video, we saw how to create a single node cluster using the interactive installer. However, most of the time, you will need to configure your cluster to meet your needs. In this guide, I will show you how to configure a Kairos node using cloud config. So our objective is going to be to change the node's hostname to be able to identify it. How do we do this? So all the prerequisites you asking for is that you already do the getting started video, because that way you will already have a Kairos node deployed, which I have already done, and now I'm just going to SSH into this node using the Kairos user that is always present on these systems. And if you see, I don't have to pass password because we configured that node to put the GitHub SSH keys into my system. Perfect. So this is exactly how we're going to be configuring the Kairos node using what we call a cloud config file. But why do we need to do that? Because normally if I wanted to change the host name of a system, all I would do is say sudo vim etc host name, and I would create this file, and I would say here, for example, master node, and save it. You can see that right now the node is called localhost, and if I would reboot, I would get the node name that I want. However, this will not work because Kairos is an immutable system. For that, you can read more about these two concepts in our documentation, immutability and cloud-init. These are the two things that we're going to be specifically talking about today. But let me also give you a little information about that. So in the architecture section in our documentation, there is an immutable part. Like I said, come and read the whole thing. It's going to be interesting. Basically, the part of the operating system is going to be immutable, and you will also have a persistent section. We're not going to talk in depth about that, but you want to have a place where you can save all the data for your application, data that can be changing. And you also have, as we saw, this OM directory where normally we put there the configuration of the system. Now, within the operating system, we will see two types of immutability. What do I mean about that? Let's have a look. One is what we were just doing right now. We tried to change, or we tried to create this file called etc hostname, but it didn't seem to have the normal response or results that you would have on a Linux system. So let's read the file again and see what happened. Well, turns out the file name is not there because what's under etc is not really, while you can write into it, everything gets lost between reboots. This is because etc is actually an overlaid system, an overlaid file system, and whatever you touch here gets lost, as I say, between reboots. So there is no way, even though I can change the file, it looks like I can create that file or edit files there. The truth is that after the reboot, they are gone. This is one type of immutability. The other type of immutability that we have is where we really cannot even write into the system. For example, let's say that I wanted to install a package, sudo apt update to make sure that we have everything refreshed. And now let's sudo apt install Ruby, and we say yes, and we see what happens here. We have errors, and the errors say read-only file system. So those are the two kinds of immutability that you will encounter in a Kairos system. This is important because you don't want to have people SSHing into your system and doing changes so that you end up with snowflakes within your fleet, and also it reduces the attack surface that a hacker can have from your system. All right, so now that we already saw that, how do we do the configuration of the host name? Well, for that we're going to need, like I said, our cloud config file, and we're going to also need to learn a little bit about well, also read, like I said, about the being cloud-init based, what that means. This is basically just a way to configure nodes. There are other systems, but this one is one that is used across different cloud environments. And if you go to the reference section, you will see in the configuration the details of what you can do with our cloud configurations. First of all, you always have to have this what looks like a comment at the top here, and this is to differentiate and tell Kairos agent that this is a valid this is a YAML file that contains cloud config information and that it should read it. That's what this comment up here is doing. If you don't have it, it will ignore that file. And if you want to know how to configure the hostname, well, it turns out there's a very simple way. You just add a key saying hostname with a value of the name that you want to add. So let's do that quickly here. It doesn't matter where you put it. I'm gonna put it here, hostname, and let's say master node. We write quit, we sudo reboot, and we wait for it to come back. Now, in the meantime, as you can see, there are many sections here that you can follow. We're not going to do anything else but this one here. Let's wait for our system. Okay, our system is back, so I can SSH into it again. And now I can see that it says master node, and let's have a look about that hostname file that I was talking about, and we can see that it exists and it has the value that we want. This is because behind the scenes Kairos will read this cloud config file and it will produce the right kind of configuration that the system needs, in this case this hostname file. Now this is quite nice, but imagine that we're going to have multiple master nodes in our cluster, so we might want to have a way to differentiate each node with something that is distinct for each of them. And for that, what we can do is to pass here. I will show you where you can find this information, by the way, if you need to. We have a section called examples that talks about a multi-node K3s cluster. That's the goal that we're going to do, but not in this video, but later on. And you can see that here you can append the machine ID, 4 digits of the machine ID into our configuration. So let's do that. And again, we do a reboot. Okay, our node is back, and we can already see that it has the name that we want. We can SSH in, and we see it's called master FB0A, which is the 4 numbers of the machine ID. If we check again the hostname file, we also see the same thing. This is all you need to know, the basic on how the cloud-init works. As I said, I recommend that you go and check the documentation so that you know in depth how Kairos is doing this and why we do that. Thank you.